For years, thousands of people paid good money to stand in a room and scream abuse at Peter Manley, and the strangest part is that it might have been the best thing that ever happened to him. He reached 64 in March of 2026, and the man darts fans once loved to hate now runs the very players' union that speaks for the entire sport, which is a twist almost nobody saw coming. To understand how a booed villain became one of the most powerful figures in darts, you have to go back to acquire newsagents in Cheam, to 3 heartbreaks against the same opponent, and to the single act of defiance that changed everything, including a wound that took years to heal. The nickname, as it happens, arrived long before the fame did. Peter David Manley came into the world on the 7th of March 1962 in Cheam, in the London borough of Sutton. Long before darts turned him into a name fans recognised, he worked behind the counter at his parents' newsagents, a shop called Manley's. He'd been throwing since 1974, yet it took 2 full decades for the wider public to take any notice of him. Recognition finally landed in 1995 at the Unipart European Masters. On his televised debut, the commentator Tony Green watched Manley close out leg after leg by nailing the winning double with his very first dart, and Green christened him 1 dart on the spot. That first televised final ended in defeat to Mike Gregory, but the nickname had already taken root and it would follow him for the rest of his career. Manley later spelled out exactly why the style unsettled his rivals. Speaking to Sky Sports, he put it this way: "Players were in awe because they knew that if they missed, I only needed 1 dart. There's a quieter detail behind all of that, because the MC Phil Jones had urged him to stick with the approach after a world match play loss to Jamie Harvey, telling him, 'Stick with it, it will frighten the players.' Jones turned out to be exactly right. That advice set up a rise that came on fast. Manley made his PDC debut at the World Match Play in 1996, and through the back half of the 90s, he tore up the rankings. 7th in the world at the close of 1998, 4th by the end of 1999, he reached the sport's biggest stage for the first time that same year, the PDC World Championship Final at the Circus Tavern in Purfleet. Waiting across the oche stood Phil Taylor, the power, the most dominant player the game has ever produced. Manley lost that final by 6 legs to 2. It marked the opening chapter of what became the defining pattern of his career, though right then, he was still very much on the way up. Up he went all the way to the summit. Between the 24th of September 2000 and the 28th of October 2001, Peter Manley sat as the world #1 ranked player in the PDC, a spot he took directly from Phil Taylor, and a position he would occupy twice across his career. His year-end rankings capture a man at his absolute peak, #1 in the world at the close of 2000 and #1 again at the close of 2001. He'd conquered the mountain, and yet the moment that defines him in most fans' memories wasn't any kind of triumph. It was an act of pure defiance, and it unfolded at the 2002 World Championship Final. Once more, Manley drew Phil Taylor in the final at the Circus Tavern, and this time the result was a complete whitewash, 7 legs to 0. What lingers in the memory though has nothing to do with the scoreline. When it was over, Manley refused to shake Phil Taylor's hand. That single gesture rewrote his public image overnight. A respected top professional became the pantomime villain of darts, the man crowds turned up specifically to jeer. His own explanation for the snub was almost comically flat, because he claimed he avoided the handshake simply because he urgently needed to use the toilet. History sat underneath the tension, mind you. Manley traced it back to their earlier meeting, telling Balls.ie, "I played Mr. Taylor in a world final in 1999 and he was doing some naughty things on the stage. I already prepared to walk off, but he turned around to shake my hand. I had already started going, so I just carried on." Here's the thing that made Manley different. He never fought the boos, he fed on them. The reputation became a weapon and an act all at once. As he explained to Sky Sports, "I knew I could use these boos and put other players off. I lived with it, I worked with it, and I thought it was quite funny. Actually, it inspired me to go on and want to win." Gamesmanship became his trade. He hurled everything he had at Taylor, all of it psychological, and in his own blunt words to Sky Sports, "Yeah, I tried everything. I threw the book at him." That meant chattering away at the oche, dragging out the retrieval of his darts, even swapping his shirt mid-match, anything at all to climb inside an opponent's head and stay there. Even Taylor, the man absorbing all of it, grew to respect the craft. Looking back, Taylor admitted, "I really got the grit in my teeth when I played Peter Manley. He did wind you up. He was the master at it. I miss him not being here." There was far more to the man than the villain costume, and 2003 finally handed him the one trophy that counted. During the summer of 2003, Manley captured the Las Vegas Desert Classic, the only major title of his entire career. He beat John Parr in the final by 16 legs to 12 out at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. The winner's check read $22,000, drawn from an $88,000 prize fund. What happened next tells you everything about the financial reality of professional darts back then, because Manley pocketed nowhere near that headline figure. On the Darts Show podcast, he laid it bare. It was $22,000 that I actually won, but after the USA withholding tax, I actually ended up with £9,700, under £10,000. That was the take home from the biggest win of his life, once the taxman in 2 countries had carved out his share. That Vegas victory delivered something that outlasted any trophy though. It delivered a marriage. Fresh off the 2003 Desert Classic, Manley proposed to his partner Crissy, and in 2004 the pair married at the Flamingo in Las Vegas. This part matters because Crissy Manley was never simply a darts player's wife. She was a professional in her own right. Competing on the BDO circuit, Crissy carried a nickname of her own, 2 Dart. She reached the final of the 2002 World Darts Trophy, the final of the 2003 Windmill World Masters, and finished runner-up at the 2002 Women's Las Vegas Desert Classic, where she went down 2-1 to Data Hedman. The Manleys, in other words, were a darts couple in the fullest sense, 2 professionals sharing one roof, and together they raised 2 daughters. A rather charming story sits behind the music that became his calling card. Around 2005, Manley switched his walk-on song to Tony Christie's Is This the Way to Amarillo? A suggestion that came from Crissy after she watched Peter Kay and Tony Christie perform it on BBC Children in Need. Wayne Mardle had advised him that dancing is the best way to come on, and the tune landed beautifully at his hometown Premier League night in Carlisle. The villain had found his anthem, and the same crowds that once booed him started singing along. The rivalry with Phil Taylor wasn't done, however, because one more final lay ahead. In the World Championship, final staged in January of 2006, Manley met Taylor for the 3rd time on the sport's grandest stage, and for the 3rd time he came up short. 7 legs to 0, the identical scoreline to 2002. 3 World Championship finals, 3 defeats, every last one of them handed to him by Phil Taylor. The raw numbers behind that rivalry are merciless. Across the years from 1999 to 2010, Taylor won 22 of their 25 meetings, according to Sky Sports and Sporting Life. Manley managed only 2 televised wins over him, one at the 1999 World Match Play semi-final, and one in a 2008 Premier League game. 2. That was the entire haul against the greatest player the sport has ever known. That 2006 run also produced one of the most controversial episodes of his whole career. In the quarter-final, Manley faced a 20-year-old Adrian Lewis, a player mentored by none other than Phil Taylor himself. Midway through the match, Manley muttered something at the oche, and the exact words have been reported variously. Some accounts saying, "diddly diddly dum," others, "give it large." Whatever actually left his lips, young Lewis was rattled enough to storm clean off the stage. Manley closed out the match 5 legs to 3, then lost that 7-0 final to Taylor. Here's the part that usually gets cut from the retelling. Manley afterward took Adrian Lewis and his family out to dinner to patch things up, and the 2 have worked alongside each other since. The villain, it turns out, always knew exactly where the line sat. Beneath all the showmanship, Manley was waging a battle that had nothing to do with darts at all. Heart failure arrived during his playing career, a diagnosis that forced sweeping changes to how he lived. He also set out to shed as much as 3 stone, partly because his match shirt had begun restricting his throwing arm. None of that was vanity, it was simple medical necessity, and it's an experience he leans on now when he counsels the next generation. He has drawn on it to warn younger players, Luke Littler among them, about guarding their weight and their fitness. The family has weathered more than one serious health scare too. According to a PDP Facebook post, his wife Crissy received a breast cancer diagnosis. Behind the bright arena lights, these are people who have faced down genuine hardship. As the playing days faded, the rankings began sliding, and the ending grew impossible to ignore. Following those peak years at number 1, Manley's year-end positions chart a steady decline. 5th in 2008, 13th in 2009, 20th in 2010, 38th in 2011, and 66th by 2012. His PDC tour card slipped away in 2011 once his form deserted him, and from 2012 onward, he tried again and again to claw it back at Q School without success. That same collapse year cost him his long-standing unicorn sponsorship as well. When the final tally was added up, his career prize money sat at roughly £515,000, according to the darts database figure as of June 2026. An earlier all-time PDC money list had him near 511,000, ranked 37th of all time. Across the whole career, the darts database credits him with 18 titles plus that single major. That covers the playing days. The real question in the title though is what Peter Manley is doing now, and the answer catches a lot of people off guard. Peter Manley chairs the PDPA, the Professional Darts Players Association. That's the players' union, the very body that speaks for the professionals he once spent his evenings winding up at the Oki. And as of early 2026 he remains in the post. He stays busy in the game in plenty of other ways too. Rebuilt in December of 2025, his official website announces that he is now taking bookings for 2026, covering darts exhibitions, shop openings, after-dinner speaking, his PDPA duties, and player management. At those exhibitions, he typically takes on all comers over 16 to 20 legs, and these days, he throws Windmill signature darts under their sponsorship. One competitive outlet did recently vanish though. Through the early 2020s, Manley turned out at the World Seniors Darts Championship, and in 2022, he beat Data Hedman 3-1 before losing, fittingly enough, to Phil Taylor by 3-1 in the second round. The whole World Seniors Darts Tour then folded in August of 2025, scrapping its 2026 events and refunding tickets, which goes a long way toward explaining why his competitive outings have largely dried up. True to character, Peter Manley remains a divisive figure to this very day. His running of the PDPA has drawn pointed criticism from inside the darts world across 2025 and 2026. Former player Justin Pipe charged that Manley is only going through the motions at the PDPA and went further, claiming, "The man only lines his own pockets and doesn't give a shit about players outside the top 10. The Dutch professional Vincent van der Voort branded a Manley interview disgustingly arrogant, adding, "He's clearly not there for the players." Manley, for his part, refuses to back down. He has defended the PDPA's record, insisting it works hand in hand with the PDC, and he reckons a good deal of the modern grumbling is pointless. As he framed it, "We all moan, but it's totally unnecessary, a lot of it." On managers pocketing big slices of player earnings, his verdict was blunt: why give 40 or 50% away? The man who built a career out of provoking reactions is still provoking them, only now from behind a desk rather than at the Oki. There's a personal footnote to the rivalry that shaped everything as well. So frosty was the relationship with Phil Taylor that, by Manley's own account, Taylor snubbed his wedding. His explanation was deadpan to the bone, because he said of Taylor, "He was invited. I think he thought it was a paid bar. He never has anything in his pocket other than chalk." On the Sishayat rivalry itself, Manley summed up his entire approach to playing the villain, putting it like this: "Everyone gave Phil Taylor respect, but I just wasn't that player to give it to him. I wanted to beat him. I wanted to go home and have some posh food on my table." Let's circle back to where this all began. Peter Manley turned 64 in March of 2026, and his life today reads almost like a perfect echo of his playing career. The World Championship eluded him completely. 3 finals slipped away to one man, 2 of them without a single leg to his name. His lone major paid out under £10,000 once the tax was settled, and still, decades on, here he sits as chairman of the Players' Union, pulling crowds at exhibitions, speaking his mind without filter, and splitting opinion just as sharply as he did the night he refused that handshake in 2002. He was the pantomime villain who fed on the booze and spun them into a livelihood, the number one who could never topple the one man who mattered most, and now the elder statesman who simply cannot stop stirring the pot. That is the life of one dart Peter Manley, and whatever else you might say about him, boring has never once been on the list. Thanks for watching. If this look back at one of darts' most divisive figures hit the mark for you, drop a comment telling us which Peter Manley moment sticks with you most, and we'll catch you in the next one.